Hello. In this Tweak the Mix video, I'm going to show you how I took this track and turned it into this. This track is an instrumental called Nothing Grows Like Greed by Sam Paul Robinson, musician, composer, and producer, and creator of No Deal Disco. Put that over here, I think. And he put it together, but usually is recording his own drummers because he's a drummer, a guitarist. He basically does everything apart from bass usually on his tracks. And he sent this to me and thought, what could I do to it? And also primarily, what could I do to make the MIDI drums sound bigger, better, because that's not what he was used to using. Because again, awesome drums that he's done. I've mastered a couple of the No Deal Disco tracks so far. Love his creativity. So let's get into it and see what this track is about. So if we take a look at the mixer view here, the top row of plugins, the top three, are what were included when Sam sent me the Logic session. So, and then everything under this EQ here, so lines, what is that, 5? Everything below is what I've added. Just wanted to make sure that I could see what was there. And also like this gain, I've added these gains here instead of moving the faders, so I could easily say, that's what I've done to that track and just raise the volume. These beautifully colored tracks there, I haven't done anything to them. They're just nice little tracks in there, so I'm going to hide those and that will clear up the mixer because then everything else is what I've done. This top one is the original track. I just bounced that out for ease of playback. And yeah, I'll take you through now what I've got, and I will just play the original again and a little snippet of the mix without me saying in between, so you can hear the transition very cleanly. So here's the general layout of the track. We do have those few that are hidden, as I did earlier, but we get rid of those. I will have a quick look at this introduction later. I haven't done too much, but I have done a little effect on, where is it? This one, that delay guitar. I've done some automation of things, so I will cover that very quickly. And then primarily the drums, the bass, and a few other bits and bobs in the other sections that I've done, which is basically the difference in the track. Now, as we listen to this little section, just doing a quick analysis of what to me is sort of missing or what we can improve. So first off, the guitars there on the sides, it's just they're wanting to be a bit more. I think it's just like they're being a bit apologetic, so I just want to probably give those a bit more. The bass end, it's a bit lacking, need to give a bit of solidity, a bit of bite to that. And the drums, which is what Sam was after particularly, it's light. The snare's all right. You can hear the kick drums kind of doing da 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 da. Oh, hello. It's kind of that rather than a bit more of an aggressive punch. And there's da, 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 da. That guitar is a bit too prominent for me. I much want to hear da, 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 the actual tune bit rather than that accompanying guitar part. So that's that section. What do we get? Oh, that's the build up. So the bit dirtier, like that sound from that, where we got that fuzz guitar comes in. Nice. So same, basically nothing extra in there for this, all these sections. Let's try if we can get that. So take that off. All of that, really, these where the drums come in, it's about the drums, bass, and levels of guitars, and do a few other things. And that last section as well. If we compare that to the original. Again, it's just lacking, so it's going to be all about giving it some more oomph. Now, the introduction kicks off with the ones that I've hidden. So we have these little builds. And where are we? The sound here. I have automated the grind function on there. So it's just building up steadily and steadily. So when we get to, you can hear it. A bit more energy. I like that little bit of movement to happen. And similar on this guitar that's on the left, the tone is changing. So nice, more mellow tone, and then by the time we get to the end of that section, it's just that little bit more edge to it, brighter. Not much, but change again. I like change. And so this bubbler track with the volume automation on, that's Sam put in to have that nice little build up here, and then disappears, so that's very subtle. Where are we? There. It's not even there at the start. Very quiet. Very quiet. This little bubbling going on. Gets louder, and then once that new section cuts off, so nice little effect there. And noodles. I do love a little noodles. What have we got in here? Nice sound. Again, I haven't touched that at all. And that's one of Sam's creative little doodles, or noodles. And we have a little birdsong track here, which is coming in, nice little warm synth. And just is underneath everything, helping glue things together. So that's most of the intro there. And I've got the one knob pumper on there, which I have to thank my friend Mike Holt for reminding me that I actually have it. Well, he put it in a post to say that's what he was been using. Like, ooh, I have all the one knob stuff, and why haven't I used this before? That was a good few months ago. So yeah, I've been using it a lot more. And rather than having this track build up, oh, let's turn you off. It's a nice little guitar playing. But it was always there. So to automate that, just as it came in, turn it on will be helpful. You'll hear that little pumping action going on, and then from here, it's automated all the way to get less pumping, all the way up to when it ends, and you get this section with the nice chord on it. So the introduction now, I'm just going to take it from that point. So that's with, you can hopefully hear that subtle bit of growth happening more in there, and that little bit of pumping on that guitar just gives a bit more character. Now in this first section where we have the drums and guitars properly come in, we have these two guitars on the sides. Which are nice. And I have simply turned both of those up 3.5. Yep, 3.5. And if I turn that off, that difference there, quite quiet. Difference in the track off. Just lifts that tune a bit. This side guitar, lovely friend Soothe. Always very useful to have some Soothe on. Can I make that bigger? Let's make that bigger. So we are listening out for this section of the guitar, which was quite harsh. There, if I crank that up. It was just that really quite metallic-y sound. Not keen on that. And also this one. Just a that, boxy sort of. And let's do the total delta, if we turn that off. So that's what Soothe is working on. So if we compare both the untreated and the Soothe, this is without my bust. With. Just takes that edge off. Always makes just sound, I don't know, more quality guitar. It's the best way I could describe it. So that's the Soothe and Q3. Ooh, yes, that one. On that guitar, we have that tone. Again, let me turn that up. Oh, and I could just boost it. So didn't like that at all. So if we undo that and take it out. Quite a subtle change, but just didn't like that frequency in there. So that's, that's all those guitars. And those two guitars, if we click that, is going to the less sizzle, which basically I've taken out some other frequencies. Very subtle, but taken off this top end, which is the main thing. If we play that, I'll put that back off. It's really quite bright. So that's just taking that top edge off. So that's the start of the main drum section. So if we listen to it as the original. Particularly focusing on those guitars now as the effect, as what I've done. And you'll hear that other guitar. Where is it? The one in the middle. Just very prominent where it's just pushed back in the mix now. So it's swapping over what really was an accompanying part, and then the solo parts, it's just done that. Then we are on to the drum kits. Okay, so this is the original drums, which are these three in green, and again, shift click on the bus, and it's going to this drum bus here, which there's nothing on it. So let's just play that. And I have no idea where that reverby guitar is. I couldn't find it at all, even though it's sort of on the snare part, but it's not. It's a ghost. Right, so just ticking along. Now, if we then go and have a look at the kicks drum here, what I did notice was all of the drums are on 127. They're on max volume there. So of course, when you play, you're just getting da 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 da. So I have copied the part. As you can see, we now have, we start with 127, go to 100, 102, 115, 100, and 109. So it's not huge, but there's that little bit of variety going on now. So hopefully when you hear that, you're getting more of a dun 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 rather than dun 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 dun. So we just compare those two. And then the full 127s. And back to, I know that's got my treatment on it as well, but you can hear the difference every, there's a variety in each kick then. So back to the drums and comparison. So there's more oomph on the low end of the kick. Snare is pretty similar, but I've added a reverb. Give it a bit of space. Back to mine. Sounds like I've boosted 200 hertz as well, just a little bit more weight. The compressor. So comparing the two kicks, I've turned the compressor off because it really wasn't doing much. Let's just turn that on. Or actually, let's do it on the original. Maybe a bit better. If I turn that off, I'm back on. So that's why I've turned that off on there. And the snare, similar, just wasn't, to me, doing anything. The overdrive gives a nice little bite. Let's turn that off on the kick. So left that on, and the channel EQ is rolling off this bottom end there. Now for mine, rather than having such a big roll off, is it the same? Yeah, similar roll off here on the low cut, 90. I've just lowered it a bit to give a bit more of the bottom end. So the original was at 90 hertz. I'm at 80. I've got a steeper roll off, and he's taking off 121. It's quite a bit on that original. Let's just pop it there. Can understand that, it's a bit woolly, but by reducing all of that, you've taken away quite a lot of the weight of the kick. Oh, hello. So on mine, let's see what we've done. I have taken out a little bit of there, but that quite boxy, well not boxy, but annoying. I turn it down, emphasizing that little bit of a hit, the tap. Give it a bit more definition on the high end, help it cut through the mix. Done here. That's not too bad a sound, but just wanted to pull that out. And then this 200 one. Yeah, don't like that. It's annoying. And put that back to as it was. Oh, on the top end, we've rolled off very subtle. Just didn't want all that top end in there. Leave the space for the cymbals and some other stuff that it wants to cut through on that mix. Then we have the smack attack from Waves, just to give a little bit more transient push at the beginning of each kick. So without and with and without. Again, just gives it that little bit of a bite to cut through. And oh, okay, I made it mono. Why did I make it mono? Oh yeah, let's put that on the multimeter. You can see it's just, there is some definition going on in the stereo, and I just wanted it centered just to put everything right in the middle for the kick drum. So that was the purpose of monoing that. Onto the snare, basically again, left it the same. So that's the original snare EQ, and there's mine. So I've basically kept a similar shape here and here, but I've pulled out this. Let me copy that. Didn't like that. But we are boosting. Where is it? Oh, that's part of the low cut. So by changing the Q, we are just giving a bit more weight to that bottom end of the snare. Take that off. That's a bit lightweight. It's got a bit more of an oomph to the bottom of the snare there. Not much change here. I just wanted to take some of that off. It's a bit too crispy for my liking. And that's all on the snare. So not much touched. I lie. I've got some transient designer on here. Turn that off. Very subtle. And then the reverb. The Eventide SP 2016. And it's pushed quite a bit back here on the position. So it makes it sound it's further back if you push that slider up. So if I bring it forward, here's really forward. It just pushes it back. So without, dry. And if I do the whole mix of the drums, oh, it's the kick and snare, and then turn that off. Just sort of puts it into a bit more of a room space, which I like on that. So that more or less covers the drums, apart from these cymbals, which comes in a bit later. No, let's look at what have I done? I've narrowed it. I'm not so keen on drummers or drums where everything's this wide and you've got like, I'm playing the hi-hats over here and my cymbal is over here. It's just the way I visually see them. I want to see in between speakers, and it's like, it's sort of there on stage rather than being the full width of the stage. So I've put that down to 50% rather than full width. So this is what the cymbals were like without. That here, and then 50% without. It's just too wide for me. So personal preference. It's a bit like do you mix drums from the position of the drummer or from the audience? I tend to do from the drummer, or do I? I don't even know. No, from the audience. So I always put my snare to the right a little, whereas other people would put the snare to the left and the hi-hats over there. I want it over here. It's just, again, personal preference. And the J37 tape is not doing that much. Oh, it does help if I solo it. Let's do that. Okay, so that's nice. Brought it to life a bit more. And that's also, I've just driven the levels here just raised it by almost 8 dB. So that's the difference, bringing that up. And that's what all the drums in comparison to the others are. Whereas before, I'd love to know where that extra sound is coming from. And then more punch. So then let's have a listen to that section with everything with the original drums. No. With the original drums, take 7. It's just nice, but not punchy. So let's put the others back on. That's better. And a final thing just to do is a little test. Sometimes I do put a low cut filter on just to see what systems without any bass production will sound like. People with earpods now and everything, we do get quite a bit of low end, but I just like to grab an arbitrary figure, and in this case 115 hertz. No idea why I did that. And turn on, let's do the original drums. It's kind of nice. And then my drums, just a bit more punch on that drum, on the bass. And the snare's biting a bit more. Yeah. Back. So that's a nice little test just to be able to do. Again, it's just the habit I'm in. Also on the output, there is a limiter, but it's purely just to raise the levels a bit. So I'm just boosting that by 4 dB. Nothing, it's not being creative at all. Now, as a little build to the last section, and within the last section, Sam has this Viola swell in here, which you can see it just does a nice little build up. And if you play the original track, and if you listen out for it, do that again. And here it is on its own. It's very subtle, and I love that. I want more. Why is it buried? Buried? I can't speak. Buried. So what do we do? Not a lot on the EQ. And just taking out that sort of boxy tone. And that, yeah, didn't like that. And the Klang Helm, that's how you say it, SDIR, which I'm adding some tube. I can never remember. You flick between so many different options. It is, where is the option here? Oh yes, there it is. See, tube. That just making that a little bit more characterful. And then without. So a bit more sizzle. Like a bit of sizzle. And then we have these little plugins, which I can't make any bigger. But the P&M, I bought these, I don't know, about 3 years ago. I think that they were on offer and get like 50 plugins and they were $1 each. And I just love throwing them on now and then. I'm like, what can I use out of this bunch? Simple EQ, and I am raising the shelf at, what's that? About 5 kilohertz and up by 5 dB. So adding that little bit of air on top. So very subtle, but it'll just help come through on that top end of the mix. And we have a delay just to help it continue after it's actually done its crescendo. So if I turn all of that off and put it into my mix, it comes and goes without really any effect. And then with all the effects on, still a subtle thing, but it just is that little bit more prominence into sort of, because I want to see if it's in there, or why not make a bit more of it. Right, the last section we have here, that one, I'm going to focus on the bass part and go over to this. Oh, the hollow bass in the intro, there wasn't much in there. I didn't touch it. No, I'll explain that in a minute. So that bass, not a problem. What we're going to be interested in is the monster sine bass and that one. So the bass in the main sections with the drums was just a bit lacking. It's there, but then we've added a bit more fizz on top. Which we can then hear with that lot. And I'll take off what I added. So it helps poke through the mix a bit more on there. So both of these parts, you can see I haven't done anything on there. Sam fed here with the send to, I think it's that one. Yep, there we go. Over to this part, which is EQ to take off a lot of that low end and going through an overdrive. And that's it. So that's his effect. Very subtle on these two editions of that one and those buses. If we take the fizz off, oops, no, do that one. Just very simple, clean bass. And he added his fizz. So I have kept the same overdrive. There we go. So exactly the same settings as he had before, but the EQ have just been harsher. So his EQ was similar on the bass end. We made that 150. And then you can see I'm taking off some of that edge and the high end. I don't want all that sizzle. Too much sizzle is a bad thing. Take that off. Yeah, it comes right forward. Just wanted that cleaner dirt. That's an oxymoron, isn't it? Cleaner dirt. So then you're back to this bass and a bit more dirt. We also have the polyverse wider on it. So without the wider, that's smack in the middle, and then make it wider. That's just pushed it out. So you've got the main lower bass in the middle, and this out to the side. And if we turn that off, put the bass on, and then if you listen to it going out, and if we do that with the entire track so you can hear the width. Again, one of those subtle things. It's well, most of it is quite subtle stuff. And when it's all put together, you wouldn't know it's really there. But that's just why I like being able to break something down. And that's why when I'm working on somebody's mix, I love being able to go in and say, oh, that's what that sound is. You know, when you're listening to something, it's like, what is that? And when you're mixing a track, you actually get to find out what it is. And I love that because you get to see the person's creativity then. And that reminds me of the Viola Swell that Sam put in earlier. A lovely little touch, but I just wanted a bit more of it. And the only other thing on the bass, before I forget, is this multiband, which is just working on that frequency of where the kick drum is, so about the 85 hertz, and we have a sidechain, which is being triggered by the kick. So if we put that on, you see both the kick. You can see when that's going down, the bass is on. So I just wanted to pull some of that frequency out at the same time so the kick and the bass aren't working and competing for that same space. Again, not much. Yeah, 3 dB. Every little helps, as Mr. Tesco would say. Well, hope you found that useful. Any thoughts that you'd like to share, anything that you might do let me know. And yeah, see you next time. Bye-bye.